Elizabeth,
Sorry, I was mute.
I know you were. Have you ever done a consultation appointment?
No, not with a real client.
No, with a real client. Okay. Have you ever had a client?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, nice.
Like I'm a I'm a I'm a broker and I'm an active broker and I sell. And this is what I use to make sure that I don't waste my time.
Yes, I saw your classes. That
Oh,
is why I
oh, you
came
have?
today.
Good.
Yes, yes.
Good. So we're going to have one today. Which class did you see?
Oh, I saw. I think like the first one was about first. No, what was it? I forgot. Was how to approach to a person that is selling his house by his own.
Oh, for sale by owner. That's a long time ago.
Yes, yes.
We're going to start what I do is at the beginning of the year, I start with working with buyers, qualifying buyers, because I would say 90% of the real estate agents do work with buyers. And then right up until maybe October, we're going to talk about listings. That would be like July, August, September, October. We'll talk about listings, how to get listings. Um, and then at the end of the year, which is extremely important, is to start developing our business plan. So
Yes.
we can know where we're going with this. And then in January, one of the things that I do in January is how to, well, actually in December, how do we implement that business plan, working on 90-day cycles, which is something that is important. We need to learn how to work on 90-day cycles. Um, Also, what I do at the beginning of the year is, what does it take to become a top producer? We need to start understanding what they do and what they learn. And we have to, and you're not going to get everything from one shot, but little by little, you start listening to the different webinars, and they're basically how to sell real estate. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not a all you can eat buffet, you know, this is what you eat, rice, potatoes, or chicken, beef, I mean, or a meat, you eat a carb and a meat, and this is what I teach is, how to do it effectively. So I am glad that I was invited over today. Now, which is interesting. Have you have anyone already um, signed up for Saturday's first time homebuyer seminar? Did you know we're having a first time
Yeah.
homebuyer seminar? Okay, you got to get somebody out there. You got to have them signed up. Do you have the Eventbrite sign up sheet?
Yeah, I do, but I am not going to be able to attend this event, and unfortunately.
Send it with somebody. Hook up. We also have to learn how to have accountability partners. That's something that a lot of the real estate agents have no clue what I'm talking about. And I'm talking to everybody. I'm not just talking to you, Elizabeth. I'm talking to Esther. I'm talking
Yeah.
to Jennifer. I'm talking to Andrea. You know, I'm talking to everybody that is online this morning. Uh, um, Accountability partners are extremely important. It keeps you accountable to what you're supposed to be doing. For example, with my accountability partners, and you can have more than one, okay? One is role playing, and we role play the what I'm going to say to a for sale by owner. I role play what I'm going to say to an expired listing. I'll role play whomever I'm going to be calling that day. Okay, that way I sharpen up. It's like a sports player. You know, you see a pitcher. You know, they're always warming up. You know, they just don't go up to the mount cold. They're warming up. So we have to learn to do the same thing. We have to warm up. So we're going that route. You know, we're warming up that route. And then there are other days that we'll do objections. And, you know, and objections is that's something that I'm going to be doing actually tomorrow is how to handle objections. But one of the objections that is very common, especially when I call early in the morning, and early means 8:30 in the morning. Okay. I get people saying, "Oh, why are you calling me so early?" You know, so what do you answer? You know, calling you so early. What do you say? Oh, I'm sorry, I called you so early. I don't mean to. I won't call you again. That's what most real estate agents would say. You know, something that I would say is, "Hey, yeah, it's true. I am calling you early. You know, there's no doubt. But if I had your house for sale, would you want me to get up really early in the morning and start looking for a buyer to get your house sold?" You see, that I learned. Okay, that I learned. I learned how to say it in my own words. And I'm a proponent of scripting, which a lot of people say, but it doesn't sound like me. Well, tell you what, it doesn't sound like you. I understand that. I understand that. Then make it sound like you, but the content of the script has to be delivered in your own words. The content of this script is basically saying, you're right, it is early. But if I had your house for sale, when you want me to get up early in the morning and start looking to get it sold or start looking for a buyer for it, that's the two different words, but it's the same content. And that's what I'm saying. You have to say it, and with using the words that you feel most comfortable with, but at the same time, the delivery has to contain the content. I don't know if I explain myself, but that's how I handle it. Another common objection that I get is, well, hey, listen, man, why are you asking me so many questions? So what do you say? Hold on, I'm sorry. You can't ask questions like it's an interrogatory. That doesn't work. And some other question, hey, listen, how important is it for you to get this home sold? You see, I need to know that. And I'll ask that in different occasions, um, in different phone calls that I have with that prospect. And then when he says, "Hey, why are you asking so many questions?" I say, "Yeah, I am asking you a lot of questions, but how else can I serve you better if I don't ask you these questions?" If you notice, not only did I answer the objection, which made sense, because making sense is an element of a sale, but at the same time, I used a sales technique, which is, agree, repeat, and ask the next question. So as you take the webinars, the ones that I'm teaching, you start to become aware of, oh my God, there are sales techniques. There are ways that I need to say things. There are ways that I need to answer with which makes sense. And it takes time. You have to understand that this thing takes time. You don't, you just don't, learn all this from one shot. We've got 5 people online, and it's 10:06. Jennifer, you want me to start up? Yes,
So,
Jennifer.
so I'm here. I was trying to unmute. Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, I was waiting for you to finish your statement there so I can ask you
Okay.
to let's get started. So thank you, Raul, once again for being our presenter today. Definitely appreciate your time and your knowledge. So let's proceed. Thank you.
All right, great. So we're going to be basically English. I think everybody understands English, so we'll do it in English. It's a lot easier than to have to repeat myself in both languages. My name is again is Raul Orta. I'm a real estate coach. I am an active broker. I love selling. There's nothing wrong with selling. Matter of fact, if you really look at our license, it says we are real estate sales associates. We're not counselors. We're not advisors. We're not of that. Even though we may advise, even though we may counsel, but if you come with a problem to me and I give you my 2 cents worth, would that make me a therapist? No, it doesn't make me a therapist. So because a buyer or a seller comes to you and with a problem and you try to counsel them or advise them, it doesn't really make you an advisor. It's just part of our job of being salespeople. And by being a salesperson, I am, and I urge you to do the same, hold yourselves or ourselves to an extremely high standard of ethics. I had a conversation with a real estate this morning. This lady was upset about something, and I spoke with the lady, and I said, "Listen, the best way is just for you to come and meet me. Let's talk about this and see what happened." Well, uh, then I get a phone call from the real estate agent, and he says, "Well, Raul, this lady's been calling me," and I said, "Yeah, I just spoke with her, and I told her that." We had taken that action according to an email that we received saying to do so. Did you tell her that? Well, what do you expect me to tell her? Lie? No. You start lying to people, it's gonna catch up with you. Okay, so because we're salespeople doesn't mean we have to lie or we have to butter it up or mislead somebody. No, be transparent. You're gonna do more business that way. You gotta be transparent. Okay. Sometimes we don't know how to be transparent. Well, then we have to really meditate and find out, okay, how can I be transparent here without misleading people, be straight to the point. So consultation appointment is designed to show property once or twice. That's it. Okay. And get a deal, a reasonable offer, an offer that has a high probability of being accepted. There's no reason to hang around with the buyer for 2 or 3 months and oh my God, I can't find them anything. That should be that's not what I do. I don't send out lists, um, but I do require certain things of the buyer before I do the consultation appointment. Okay. It's not something like I meet a buyer right now. Okay, let's go do a consultation appointment. No, I can't. I can't sell somebody on 7 to 10 days just by pushing them into a consultation appointment. There is some previous work that has to be done. You know, and for those of you who say, "Oh my God, I'm not doing so well, you know what? It's never too late. Never too late. We got to start thinking that we can be productive because at the end of the day, folks, isn't there a lot of money in every closing that we make? Hey, we're making 12, 13, 15, $20,000 per closing. Are we going to let this opportunity go? Is this opportunity going to last forever? Probably not. Okay, probably not. Hey, I remember when I used to make $900, $1,000 per deal, and I was happy. I was making a lot of money. Okay, I was making a lot of money. We're really, really fortunate that in Miami-Dade County and Broward and this area here in South Florida, property values are so high. There are top producers working in states that they were making a few years ago, and I'm talking about 5 years ago, $2,000 or $3,000 per deal. We never made that here. Maybe back in the 70s, but we're not. Okay. So you want to sell somebody on 2 or 3 showings. Okay, we got to have the mindset that it can be done. If you feel that you can't sell somebody on the first property that they see, then you got to readjust that mindset. I had a closing the other day for a realtor, and we were getting into this conversation, and the buyer said, the first house that I saw, that's the one that I wanted to buy. That's the one that you're closing on today, Raul. So, and then she proceeded by saying, and you know what the realtor said to me? Let's look at other houses before you make a decision. So the buyer said, why would I want to look at other houses when this is the one that I want? So, folks, the right mindset is so important. 80% of this business is mindset. It's a mindset is basically your beliefs and how you look at things. Okay. And if you think that they need to see 20 properties before they make a purchase, then you're going to show them 20 properties. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to show them maybe 40 properties within an hour, anywhere from Broward County to Homestead. Okay. Without moving from my office. But when we go see property, they're going to see 2 or 3. So they can select, choose, put an offer on, reasonable offer, with high probability of getting accepted in one of those properties that we're going to go see. So 2 or 3 showings. Okay. Now, the buyer has to be pre-approved for a loan. I can't be showing property to somebody that is not pre-approved for a loan. And maybe none of you would do something like this, but you'd be surprised how many real estate agents go ahead and start showing property without knowing what the person can afford, only because they told them, yeah, I can pay so much a month, when in fact they're not even pre-approved for a loan. And then motivation is key. Motivation is key. Yeah, I want to buy, but you know what? I want to buy in September. Well, guess what? You're not a buyer. I might keep you around just to say hello every so often. Well, when I get back from Europe, I'm a buyer. But right now, you're not a buyer, so that's not a buyer. That's not a hot lead. And then you have to learn how to ask the right questions. And one of the questions is, so you're interested in purchasing a home, right? Yeah. So by when do you want to be moving to your new house? Oh, September, October, maybe December, Hey, look, I want to be moved in as soon as possible. Actually, before September, which is when the new school starts. Okay. Got to feel them out. Got to know that motivation. Okay. Now, this is what I do. Okay. I'm going to open and I'm going to show you the three tabs. The 3 tabs. One is going to be the MLS. You need to have it. The other tab that I'm going to open is the boundary zip code map. And I spelled it out because there are many zip code maps around. But the one that works best for me is the one called boundary zip code map. Okay. And then because that way I know the zip codes, which I'm going to incorporate into my MLS so I can pull up properties. One of the and I'm going to call it an objection from a buyer is, am I buying the right house? Or they give you this type of question. I'm sure some of you have heard it before, saying something like, what else is out there? Could you send me more properties? See, that's the same objection. Hey, I'm not confident that the ones that you're sending me it's the best deal for me. So for me to do away without objection, I'm going to show them everything that is in that zip code, which is very easy. It only takes seconds. That way they see everything that is available. And I can move from one zip code to the other very easily. Okay. That's why I use the boundary map. Okay. And then miamidade.gov, I'm going to use it for a reason. The reason I'm going to use that is because I'm gonna go ahead, if the MLS says it's say 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and in Miami-Dade.gov says it's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, guess what? That's gonna be a red flag. I'm gonna have to talk to that real estate listing agent and ask him, hey, look, you're advertising it as a 3 bedroom, but I'm looking at the county map, and it's a 2 bedroom. What's up with that? He said, yeah, we have it. It's a mistake. We have the set of plans. We have the permits approved, and everything was done legally. Guess what? I need to see proof of that because he tells me it doesn't mean that it's true. But so, okay, great. Listen, could you just forward it to me? Can you let me see it, and we'll go from there. Also, the same thing with the square footage and so on. And also I need to know who the property owners are, you know. Plus I also get some information like when did they buy it? Why do I want to know that? Because I want to know if there's equity in the property. Because when there's a lot of equity in the property, they're more flexible on accepting an offer because they got money to play with. Okay. Now, if they just bought it a year ago and they're tight, that's a different story. Also, by them having a a a large amount of equity or the property being paid off, one of the questions that I will discuss with the listing agent is, um, are they willing to take back a mortgage? 99% of the time they say no. And 99% of the time when I present my option, they say yes. Okay, but there's a way of presenting it, which we're not going to cover it today, but that's a way of presenting it. Now, um, one of the questions that I might ask in terms of if they're willing to take back a mortgage, I say, listen, once they sell, do they plan to buy another property? No, no, they're too old. They're not going to buy another property. Matter of fact, they own another property. They're just going to move into that one. What does that tell me? What he's telling me is that they're going to take that money from the proceeds of the sale and they're going to put it in the bank at 1 or 2% at best. When I can get them twice, 3 times that amount if they took back a mortgage. That's why I look at Miami-Dade.gov so I can talk, I can have questions. Remember, selling is not telling. Selling is asking questions. And the reason that you ask questions is for you to know how to better serve the buyer, how to better serve the seller. Okay, so I'm not gonna call you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause for a second. I'm gonna show you the things here. Let me see if you gotta just stop the share. Just bear with me for a second. Hold on a second. Okay. Get this one here. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Here. Okay, I guess we can all see the You see what it's called? Zip code boundary? Okay, now by doing so, you see, I have the different uh zip codes. Okay, I got the different zip codes. You see, I can basically move, somebody's looking for a property in 331-667. Hey, I can look at property in 331-447, or maybe 331-54. See, I can move easily from one zip code to the other. Then you might have zip codes that are close by, like 055 and 56. You see, they're next to each other. 54. Okay, I could go from 56. I could go all the way down to 33158, 56, if they want to go that far, and I can show them all the properties. See, I can move around very, very, very easily. Okay, in my Miami-Dade County, this is again what I'm looking at. It's going to be my property search. Okay. One thing about working with a buyer, which is really interesting, okay, is okay. Let me show you another aspect of working with this part over here. Way to the bottom, the tax estimator. One of the things that buyers want to know is how much is my monthly payment going to be? Okay, so I can do principal and interest using the MLS, and I'll show you where. Okay, and I can also uh, property insurance. We know it could be, depending on the size of the property, it could be anywhere from $300 to $400 a month in property insurance, and then your tax estimator, because people remember, the lender is going to approve the loan, or the buyer, with the current taxes, but the current taxes are not the property taxes that the buyer's going to be paying next year. And again, being transparent, talking to people. I had one buyer one time tell me, "Oh, Raul, look how good. They only pay $8,000 in property taxes." And I said, "Yes, that's true. That's what they pay. But what you're going to pay is going to be 19,000. Is that okay with you?" "Yeah, that's okay. That's not a problem." "All right, then we take it from there." Okay, so that's something that we need to take into account. And then in your MLS, of course, if you go to your search, depending what you're looking for, okay, and then you use the zip code, okay? Like, let's say we use 33155, okay, they're looking for a 3-bedroom, okay, they're looking for 2 baths, and what's their price range, okay? Their price range could be less than 500,000, let's say $525,000, okay. You see, in 33155, in 33155, see, I'm having a problem seeing my, here we go. Okay. No listings were found for $500,000 or less. And they can see that. You see, they can see that. They can see that we asked for that amount. So that's part of credibility, trust. Hey, look, there's nothing for less than $500,000. I had a lady where I went ahead and showed her $500,000. She couldn't buy it, but she could buy a townhouse down in Homestead. Okay. And it was a lovely townhouse, 3 bed, what she was looking for. But she couldn't, she had the money, but she didn't have a job. But she was gonna buy with her sister that had a job and could qualify. But at that point, I said, would your sister want to move down there with you to Homestead? Well, that was the end of the conversation. No, she didn't want to move over there because she did call her and asked her, and she said, no, I don't want to get anything in Homestead. Okay, so if that's the case, I didn't waste my time with a buyer that couldn't buy. Dropped her in less than an hour and a half. And that's one of the goals in doing the consultation appointment. Keep in mind that one of the best tools in our business, other than a phone and and a car, is a trash can. And this comes from one of the highest top producing agents in the country. Hey, Raul, my best tool is a trash can. What do you mean? A trash can? Yeah, what I mean is most of the people that want to buy or sell real estate are not worth my time. So I discard them. And that's one of the skills that we have to learn, which is pre-qualifying. We don't pre-qualify enough. Okay. We don't pre-qualify everyone. Okay. So that's what I wanted to show you, the zip code, the map, and and that's what I wanted to show you, so you know what what to what to work with. Okay, so you know what to work with. Okay, now let me go back to my presentation. You did it says here to share, but I'm sharing already. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go back. All right. So never too late, folks, but you got to learn to do it right. It takes time to learn it. Okay, it takes time. Correct mindset, got to qualify that buyer financially and motivation, and you got to learn to ask the right questions. We did open the 3 windows. I showed you how they work, okay, and I show you how you can use them easily. Okay, we all know this. We all know that working with a buyer takes time, so we need to learn how to cut that time. We can't be spending time because time is money in this business. And we need to learn how to work with our time. That's one of the biggest problems we have. I have a webinar on time management. That's another thing we have to learn. Hey, how do I manage my time? How do I not waste time with a buyer? How do I not waste time with another real estate agent? And again, we have to be extremely clear on the activities that we engage in that produces income. Oh, Raul, I spent last night until 11 o'clock at night looking for property. That is not an income producing activity. Showing property, negotiating offers, calling to find new buyers or sellers, those are going to closings. Those are income producing activities. And I mentioned going to closings because I also happen to own a title company, and I would say 90% of the times the real estate agents don't show up to closing. They don't show up to closing. That's the most important aspect of the business, is to get paid. If not, everything is done for nothing. So you want to make sure that you get paid, and that's why you go to closing. That's why you go to closing. You know, you want to know that your buyer, that you're there for your buyer. or you're there for your seller. Why? Because it makes sense. It makes sense because you're going to get paid. Make sure that if you're want to get paid through wire, that the wire instructions are in. If you want to get paid for a check, that when can you pick up the check? And then the referral business from that seller or that buyer. Basically, once a person buys a property, they got two or three friends that want to buy too. And you want to make those deals yourself. So go to closing. Okay. It is as important to know that the person can purchase financially as to when they're going to purchase. Just as important. And we've talked about that before. So what? They can afford it, but they're going to buy in December. Big deal. Okay. So learn to identify motivation and financial affordability quickly, because that's what's going to determine whether you're going to work with this buyer or not. When we go Saturday and we take our prospects, not clients, they're prospects, there's a difference. We talked about the other day with an agent, the difference between prospects, clients, and customers. Okay? And customers. But anyhow, um, they're prospects. They haven't done business with you. They have not referred you business. So they're basically a prospect. Okay? You got to make sure that these people get pre-approved for a loan, that these people go ahead and get their paperwork in to get a government loan or a government subsidy loan, which some of them are to be repaid and some of them are not to be repaid. Okay? Some of them are not to be repaid, but they need to know that if they're going to go there with the purpose of, you know, uh, okay, so, all right. Any questions so far? Any comments? We've got to work with the right buyer. Now, what is a prospect? Prospect is not a client. A prospect is somebody that just said, hey, look, I'm interested in buying, or I'm interested in selling. But so far, there's no commitment on their part to do much more than that. So you've got to qualify 100% of the time, 100% of the people. No exception means you pre-qualify your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, your cousins, your best friends, in addition to everybody else. Oh, he's my best friend. Don't worry. I know that he's got a good job and makes a lot of money. That's why we excuse ourselves from not pre-qualifying that prospect. And that's where we start wasting time. That's where we start wasting time. No exception. What's a qualified prospect? Somebody who wants to buy a week or two. That's it. If they're really interested in buying, they'll buy within a week or two. Again, we go back to the story about the lady that said, the first house that I saw, that's the one that I want to buy. I don't need to see any other property. That's a buyer. But the agent did not recognize that they had a buyer. Figure that out. I'm talking to a buyer. I am pre-qualifying the buyer. And I asked this question, and I said, Ms. Buyer, if the first property that you see is the house of your dreams, is the house that you can afford, it's what you've been looking all your life for? Would you buy it? Guess what you told me? No, I have to see many other properties before I make a decision. Is that a buyer or is that someone that is going to waste my time? I had another buyer. How long you been looking for property? Oh, I've been looking for a year. Shit, a year? What happened? You haven't bought anything. Well, I haven't found the right home. Well, what is it that you're looking for? Well, I'm looking in this specific building. This is all on Zoom, by the way. I'm looking for this specific building, you know. And I said, listen, wait a minute, boom, boom, boom. Hey, I got three properties in that particular building, and they're looking at the direction that you mentioned you were interested in. How about can we make an appointment to go see it tomorrow? Oh, no, no, no. I'll call you and I'll let you know. Is that a buyer? You see the trash can? How it plays a big role in the work that we do? How do you know if I want to work? Well, there's also a criteria that I use. And I use it for buyers, I use it for sellers, and I also use it for realtors. Because you talk to some of these realtors, it's my client, and if I don't get what I want, I'm not going to present the offer, or they're not going to do business, and don't waste my time. How inflexible is that person? How receptive is that realtor? How reasonable? How realistic? And then, of course, I don't see any signs of cooperation. Is that a deal that I want to get into? The same thing with the buyer, the same thing with the seller. They need to be flexible, realistic, receptive, reasonable, and cooperative. What is realistic? You know, hey, I want to buy a property oceanfront for $100,000. You know, I mean, that's just not going to happen. At least not, it's not going to happen here in Miami-Dade County. But I can find you a property oceanfront with a beautiful beach for $100,000 in Cuba. That I could do for you. Oh, that's a good idea because at the end of the day, that's what I want to be beachfront. I go to Cuba sometimes. So now they're being receptive. You see, they understand what I'm saying. And of course, nowadays, it's a little different. And I'm going to, they have to work exclusively with me. Now, we do have the buyer broker agreement, which talking to the attorneys from the association a couple of weeks ago, I asked the attorney, I said, how is this buyer broker agreement working? Well, he says to me that it's working good geographically. Geographically, and then of course geographically it's not working so well in other areas, so he calls it geographically. So I said to the attorney, I said, geographically means that it's not working real well in Miami-Dade County. He says, no, it's not working real well. It's working in north of the state, but not in the southern part of the state. Okay. Understand, understand that. Okay. We need to learn how to work the buyer broker agreement. We're not working it. Okay. But understand this concept. These 6 points are extremely important when we are qualifying a buyer for motivation. Because financially, give it to the mortgage broker, they'll qualify them. But then there's a question that I need to ask, that you need to ask the mortgage broker, which I have a conversation with them also. How much is the monthly payment? Oh, they tell me. Why? I've had this experience. I'll ask the buyer, have you been pre-approved for a loan? Yes, I have. I talked to so-and-so. I happen to know so-and-so. We have happened to have business with this particular client and this particular mortgage broker before, so I took it at face value, what she said. So when I asked her how much is your monthly payment, she says, I don't know. He never told me. Oh, you don't know. So I call him up and I said, hey, listen, what is the mortgage payment? Oh, they qualify up to $14,000 a month. Oh, okay, great. So now I call him back. And I said, Miss Buyer, I spoke with your MLO and he says that you qualify up to $14,000. Is that the amount of monthly payment you want to get into? No, Raul, I don't want to get into that amount of monthly payment. So you need to ask, folks. You do need to ask, is that monthly payment comfortable for you? Now, if he tells you, well, listen, I can pay only $1,000 a month, and then I'm being realistic. So why, some people tell you that, oh, I'd rather continue renting. I don't want to buy anything. I'd rather continue renting. You get some of those too. Then rent your heart out, pay somebody else's mortgage. Okay. Again, a qualified buyer will do an offer within a week or two, within 2 or 3 showings. You see, after I go through all the properties that are listed on the zip code, and we see the photographs, and we know the price points, and we see everything, there are going to be some properties that they just outright don't like. There's going to be some properties that are too small or too large, or they're out of their price point. They don't need that. So they're only going to go see 1 or 2 properties that is really what they like. All they're going to do is what we saw in a picture. I want to make sure that it's the real thing. That's the only reason we go. So, and sometimes they might look at the house next door, say, hey, this is a great neighborhood. They might look at the house next door, it's falling apart. You know what? I don't want this house. I want that other house. And that's how you get them done in a week or two. You don't get them done just by magic. I'm not a magician. I have a system, which I'm sharing with you all this morning. Okay. So now we're talking about who's a client. And we need to have these definitions clear in our minds. This is part of the mindset. What a prospect is, never done business with before, they're qualified financially, can afford it, and then they're going to buy within a week or two. Now we'll go for a client. A client is somebody they've done business with before, and they're happy with their service. They're happy with our service. If they're unhappy with our service, they're not going to do business with us again. They're not going to refer us business. This is why customer service is so important. Okay? Customer service is so important. There has to be some sort of gain, some sort of financial gain. They got a good deal. I made my commission. They got a good deal, but I didn't make any money. That doesn't work out. Oh, I gave him a credit. I had a conversation with an agent yesterday. Said, I don't want you giving credits anymore. He's getting buyers and giving the buyer half of his commission, sometimes even more. No, stop that nonsense. If they can't buy a house and at that price, you sell them a house at a lower price. And if they don't have the money to buy, then don't sell them anything. Or get them a government a loan that we're going to have on Saturday. Let's work on that. But don't give up what you make. You're taxing your family, you're taxing your livelihood. So there's a gain, and that person is willing to do business with us again and or refer us business. That's a client. These are the people that we want to have in our customer database. We talk to a lot of people and clean them up, and then the ones that some of them are good prospects. Some of them are clients. And our idea is to take a prospect and turn them into a client. Okay. So you're going to work with a buyer. two basic rules that I adhere to, okay? Lender has to pre-qualify, and if it's a cash transaction, where's this cash coming from? And don't be afraid. I've had multi-million dollar property selling, and I've asked the buyer, I said, listen, you buy it cash, uh, they're gonna ask me, where's this cash coming from? I mean, not coming from in terms of, basically where can I show that the cash is in a bank? So I said, no problem, Raul, I'll send it to you. So he sent me a couple of accounts. Yeah, he's got enough money to buy it, you know? Don't let them tell you, oh, it's cash. Well, I won't show you. They don't show you, then, well, they're not being very cooperative. Okay, they're not being very cooperative. Then they have to ask all the pre-qualifying questions. I believe I will go through some of the questions here. Keep in mind that when you're working with a buyer, now you're not only working with one buyer, you're working with a seller. You're also working with a realtor. Okay, you're working with three people: the buyer, the seller, and the realtor. And you gotta, you've got to know what you're doing, because that realtor, sometimes they're sharp, and you're gonna ask them questions and they'll give you questions, or you might ask them questions like I did the other day. I asked the listing agent, um, um, how much of a mortgage do they owe on the property? And he says, I don't know. I don't know. How could you not know? So what kind of net sheet did you give? You see, one of the things that a seller wants to know is how much money I'm going to walk out of closing with. And if you're not subtracting that from the purchase price and the other expenses, you're never going to let them know how much money they're going to walk at closing with. So again, you find people that they don't know what they're doing, or they're doing it wrong, or they think they're doing it right when in fact they're not. Gotta be careful with these internet leads. It's a lot of lookers out there. Oh, I'm gonna buy the leads. You know what? I have a friend. Oh, I got 200 leads a month. But okay, fine. What is your conversion rate? How many of those leads turning into buyers? Maybe one. Damn. Who are your best buyers? People bought from you before. A referral. Somebody that you know that wants to sell a piece of property. Another agent tells you, I've had agents, like I had this particular client, because I've done business with them before. They wanted to buy in Naples, so I sent them to a realtor in Naples. I didn't want to drive all the way over there. And anyhow, 2 or 3 months later, they couldn't find them anything. So they came back to me and says, "Oh, they can't find me nothing. I presented good offers, even above asking price, and I can't get it. Can you find me something in Dade County?" No, their mindset was that I couldn't. That's why they went to Naples. Okay, that was their mindset. And I said, all right, let's take a look. At the end of the day, they had 600 and some odd $1,000 cash, because they just sold them an office. Um, they were retiring, and they didn't want to put the money in the bank. Get it? They wanted to buy property. So I sold them an ocean front, and this was 3 years ago. This wasn't a million years ago. It was just 3 years ago. I sold them an ocean front, 1 bedroom, overlooking the ocean with no obstruction, overlooking the ocean from the kitchen. Okay, nicely remodeled. They spent maybe $2,000 or $3,000 upgrading it, maybe another four, and that's about it. Okay, nice unit. Okay, for under 500,000, like it was something like 430. Incredible, but they're out there. You just got to look for them. Anyhow, when I said, listen, you got a couple of $100,000 left over, you're gonna go ahead and pay taxes. It was on a 1030 exchange. Says, you want to pay taxes on it, or do you want to go ahead and buy another property? No, 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 we want to buy another property. We'll put some money up cash. So I found them another 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Hialeah, right off 68th Street. One of those buildings that you see there when you get off. The nicest one actually for 240 made a deal. And the listing agent had an offer for 250 and had an offer for 230 cash. And I said, listen, would they take 240 cash? I didn't know if my buyers were going to offer that, but I did say it. And she said, yeah, you take 240 cash, we'll accept it. Even though the 250 is better, but that's financed. I said, all right, I'll get an offer to you. So I talked to the buyer, said, listen, we can pick it up for 240. I already talked to the realtor about it. Do you want to go with it? Yeah, we're going to go with it. So let's go. And we closed at 240. So again, look at what kind of client you're working with. Okay. So how quick is quick? Again, you got to understand that if you show them property after the first day, you start losing credibility with them. Keep that in mind. This is why this is so important to sell them on the first outing. 7 to 10 days, to me, it's becoming a long time. Okay. You got to show them right away. That's why I take the time up front. Pre-qualify for a loan first, and then we go ahead and do the consultation appointment, show them all the properties there is, and then when we go look at, we're going to look at just the ones that they're going to buy. Okay, because I know that after my first day, if I got to go a second or third day, I start losing credibility. Some agents, and this is part of mindset, think that I need to build rapport with my buyer. So I got to show them several properties. Folks, you don't need to build rapport, because what a buyer wants to know is, am I making a good deal? What is my monthly payment going to be? And how much money do I have to bring at closing? Okay. That's basically what they are interested in. Okay. They're not interested in developing rapport with you. Okay. You got to learn to get in the middle of that transaction. What does that mean? That it's got to be a win-win, not a win-win for the buyer, not a win-win for the seller. It's a win for the buyer and a win for the seller. We got to be aware of that. It's got to be a good deal for everybody. Okay. Now, here I go into, and we're kind of like running out of time, but we go into the buyer broker agreement, which we're not using, but learn how to use it. Okay, and be bold. Ask them, hey, do you know who's paying the commission? Because a lot of buyers have um, have heard about it. Says, no, I don't know who's paying the commission. Then bring out the buyer broker agreement. Now, I happen to develop my own because my own is one page, covers what the requirements of a buyer broker agreement has, and it's basically what it says is, look, you're going to pay me the commission, contingent upon or subject to the seller giving you a credit for my commission. That's it. Okay. That's how simple it is. Seller gives you the credit or seller pays me the commission. You don't have to pay anything, but I do have you, but you're tied and you're going to work exclusively with me. Okay. Then have you been pre-approved for a loan? How much money you been pre-approved for? How much of a down payment? I've even seen coaches saying, "Oh, you don't ask how much down payment." You need to ask how much money you're going to come up with. What is the maximum amount of payment you want to take on a month? Remember, 14,000. They qualified for 14. They weren't willing to do that. I want to know. I want to have a copy of that pre-approval letter because I want to have a conversation with the mortgage broker about what kind of documentation, how soon they be able to process the loan, and what is the payment, what is the cash to close, you know, I need to have that conversation even before I do the consultation appointment. Okay? If they don't want to give me a copy of the pre-approval, then it's your decision whether you want to work blindly or not. And of course, if that buyer's not pre-approved, then you've got to have in part of your team, even if you've never sold a house before, you got to have a mortgage broker that you trust, that you work with, the title company that you work with, your home inspector that you work with. Okay, you have to have them lined up. Okay, you have to have them lined up. If you don't, then you give me a call and I'll give you the people I work with. It's not a big deal. Okay, but you need to have them pre-qualified. If they don't want to be pre-approved or pre-qualified, then again, find another buyer because these people are going to waste your time. Being pre-approved means I'm going to buy cash, but I'm not going to show you that I have the cash. That's just a saying. I don't want to get pre-approved. Okay. Now, once we have looked at several properties, are you prepared to write an offer if we find the right property for you? I said, that's the same question that I asked the lady. If you see the first property that you like and you can afford it, it's a house of your dream, will you go ahead and put an offer on? And guess what? She said no. So that'd be the end of my relationship with that person. Okay. You could ask, hey, what would it take for you to a decision to buy a home? Oh, I gotta see many. They usually tell you no, and then they give you this answer. Oh, I gotta see many properties before I make a decision. You know? So again, whatever questions you ask, you gotta keep in mind if this buyer being flexible, realistic, reasonable, receptive, cooperative, are they gonna work exclusively with me? Then and only then is when I do my consultation appointment. You see, I don't waste time. They got pre-approved for a loan. Um, I had a conversation with the mortgage broker. You know, they're willing to buy basically already. Then I do my consultation appointment. But if I don't follow these steps, it'll be endless. It'll be endless. I'll take 2 or 3 months to sell them a piece of property. And if that's happening to you, hey, give me a call. I'll give you my phone number at the end. Give me a call and I'll walk you through this again. Especially if you're working on a deal on a buyer, show you how to get this done. Okay. Selling is not telling, selling is asking questions. And the importance of asking questions is to know how best you're going to serve that buyer or how best you're going to serve that seller. And it boils down to how best you're going to serve yourselves. If you want to continue working with them or not. Some questions. Which areas are you interested in buying? Basic questions. You know this, but you got to follow the system. What's important to you about this area? Hey, I live 5 blocks away from my job, or my mom lives a couple of houses away, and they take care of my kids. That's what's important. That's what you want to know. Have you seen any properties that you like? No, we haven't seen anything. Oh, yes, we have. Then I want to ask them, how long have you been looking? All right. Then, hey, yeah, I saw a house that I like. Could you describe it to me? Why? Because when I start showing them property on the screen, I don't know exactly more or less what they're looking for. How long have you been looking for a home? How soon would you like to move in? Are you working with any other real estate agents? It won't be the first time that we're working with a buyer and all of a sudden they buy from somebody else. Got to learn to do that buyer broker agreement, folks. Sometimes a lot of the buyers own a home, and you got to ask them the question, hey, do you own a home at this time? No, I don't. Or yes, I do. Oh, you own a home at this time. So let me ask you, do you need to sell the home in order to buy the next one? You see, the content is the same. I'm just saying in different words. What price range are you considering? Because a person that qualifies for $1 million doesn't mean that they want to spend $1 million in buying a house. How many bedrooms? All these are basic questions that we know. Hey, are you looking for a pool? Most people don't need a pool, don't want a pool because of maintenance, because they got kids. But some people do want a pool. Now, might be the house of their dreams without a pool, but they have enough room to put a pool. Okay, all right, and put a pool, and hey, listen, doesn't have it. It's got the right price, right location, right everything. You love it. It doesn't have a pool, but it have enough of a backyard that you can set up a pool. Is that something that would work for you? You see, I end up with a question. Very important question 11. Are there other people who need to see the house? An agent the other day dropped the deal last minute, ready for closing. They were doing the final walkthrough, and the kids decided to go see the house. And when the kids saw the house, they didn't want it, they didn't like it. So the parents, I'm talking about kids who were 18, 20 years old, they weren't like little kids. They were adult kids already. No, they wouldn't want to move here. We don't like this house. We don't like the neighborhood. No, no. So what happened? The realtor lost the deal. Everybody worked for nothing. It cost a lot of money. Every time you lose a deal, it costs you $15,000, $20,000. Okay, you got to keep that in mind. So you got to ask. No, well, my parents are going to come up with the money. They're going to give me the money. Well, have your parents come and take a look at it. It won't be the first time that a parent looks at it and doesn't want it, or they look at it and they love it. Okay. Hey, how many homes do you need to see before you make a decision? Hey, if I see the first home that I like, I'll buy it. Like this lady told me. This other lady told me she has to see many. Okay. So, why not? Hey, do you have any questions? This is important. How many questions? Do you have any other questions? Anything that concerns you about buying your new home? Why? Because you want to get the objections out. You want to know what concerns them. You want to know what prevents that buyer from making a decision to buy today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Mind you, today could mean tomorrow, could be the next day, could be 7 to 10 days, but it definitely doesn't mean 2 or 3 months from now. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Urgency is also an element of a sale. Okay, that's why I say today. All right. So the consultation appointment, and I only have, I went over 5 minutes, but basically I showed you how I structured it. At this point is when I show it. But anyhow, um, I'm going to show property without going out of my office. I'm going to give them the cost of the monthly payments. And I'm going to show you that I would like to show you, and then we're going to make the appointments to see property. Before I make the appointments, I'm going to talk to that listing agent. Sometimes I talk to the listing agent while they're listening on the Zoom call. I'll call the listing agent and they can listen to the conversation. And if it's something that they want to go ahead with, we go show that property. Okay, and I'm going to end it up here. Uh, and I'm going to end it up just by giving you the uh, I'm going to give you show you where I do my financial Okay, here we go. All right, we're back in the MLS on Miami-Dade property tax. We figured out the taxes. We could do that kind of quickly again. All right, here we go again. I go to my finance calculators, okay? And I'll hit on my calculator. And it's not, come on. Well, here we go. Okay, home financing. All right, what I like to do is, how much will my play with this? If you haven't done it before, play with this. Okay. No, I guess it's not working with us today. It's taking time. Anyhow, it's not giving it to us today. You see, say the property is 350, you coming in with 20% down, 30 years, the interest rate, I'm not going to change it. You could change it. You could do 10% down if you want. You could do that. You know, you could just change all these numbers around. And then you can compute. And then you get details here, with 20% down. Right? You see, they're going to finance 315. Their monthly payment is going to be 1828.20. Okay. So to that you add the property tax, you add the property tax and the insurance, and that's their monthly payment. Okay. How much money they have to come in? Usually 5%. So maybe $15,000-$20,000 they have to come in with. And they're going to pay another X amount of money in principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that's how you handle that. Okay, that's how you handle that. So we talked about the zip code boundary. We talked about looking at property through the MLS, uh, using the zip code. We talked about the finances, the calculator, okay? And let's okay. You got look at all the properties there are. I didn't put any price on it. Let's say that we show this proper. See, I'm gonna go to my criteria. Computer's kind of slow today. I guess the internet is slow. But here you go. You see, you show them all the property, but make sure your criteria is good. Make sure your criteria is good, because if it's not good, then you get a lot of properties. So what am I saying? Here you got condominiums. You see condos, we don't want condos. We want single family homes. Okay, because this is what they're looking for. Okay. Look at here, single family homes, $1 million. Is this what they want to buy? Okay. See, these are all condos. These are all condos. These are all condos.
Bueno, Raúl, ya son las 11:11. Tenemos que wrap it up. I think we've lost like half the audience at this point.
Actually, we had
find
8. We have 7 now.
No, I think at the peak of it, we had like almost 20. But this is good. This is really
really?
valuable information. I honestly took screenshots of a lot of your slide. just because I would love to keep those fresh in mind, because uno usualmente no chequea los zip code boundaries esos, you know, and that's definitely a great tip to have and keep in mind always. So definitely thank you for sharing that knowledge that you always bring to the table.
Okay, so we,
Nada, entonces we're wrapping it up. Ya son las 11:11, so make a wish. Y, you know, hopefully everyone that is still connected with us is going to be at the seminar on Saturday at the workshop. Honestly, we are half of what we need for minimum, we need 40 people. We are at 22, I think, 22, 25. So I'm just hoping that everybody completes their sign up today so that we can finalize and see each other on Saturday.
could you tell us the address and the time, please? So
Hold on a second. It's in Westchester. It's in the library in Westchester. I've been placing it on the chat, the club's members chat over and over. The address is 9445 Coral Way. It's in the library there. It is a completely free event for you guys. And I've also been putting the Eventbrite. So it's important that everyone signs up, not just yourself, but also your prospects. Like Raul is calling them.
and
Because you're right, they're not buyers yet. They're definitely
be-
prospects. Hello? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
and who's gonna be there? Is he there
Well, we
to show the
we
buyers
have
where
a
they can get?
yeah. Well, I'm gonna be there, but what I'm saying is like we have a lineup of professionals that are going to be guiding the prospects in the process, right? This is not just another training like what we've been doing all week. This is not to give buyers all these techniques that we use as agents, but more than anything is tools, and have them have a roadmap of how to get to the buying table, okay? At the closing table, mejor dicho.
So
So
we're gonna have somebody there that's gonna say, if you apply, this is how much money you're gonna get from the government.
well, it's it's not that general, right? Because it's a per individual scenario, and each person qualifies differently. So the idea here is to introduce these professionals, and they can have the one-on-one with them. So there's going to be general information shared, and then after that, then each agent, along with their prospect client, can have these individual meetings with whatever professionals they need, including credit repair companies and anybody else that needs to help in the process. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Raul. Thank you, everyone that stayed
I have my
until
phone
the
number
end.
there. If they need to get a hold of me to ask any questions, how to implement what we talked about today, there's my phone number, 305-772-4932. And if you're working on a deal, help me out.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Keep Raul in mind for all your title needs as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Have a productive day. And hopefully we'll see each other Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Ciao.
Bye.